Well, folks, we're talking to Shoal Creek Fire Protection District Chief David Caulk, and boy, I'm telling you, you hear about hard acts to follow. Certainly, Chief Caulk, you had a hard one to follow. Brett Kunkel of Sorrento, what a life! Just a visionary worker, the mayor, the chief who founded the district, and he passed away, and I just saw an incredible wave of respect from people in the community and the fire service for many, many miles around. How tough was that news that you lost Chief Kunkel?
It was quite a shock to me personally and to the district board and the firefighters as well. I mean, it was quite a shock. It happened on a Sunday night, right before bedtime, and no one's expecting that type of call. And I was notified and got over there and verified all the information, and then I started making calls, and no one really knew what to say. We all meet our demise at some point in life, and no one was ready for this.
It just hard to believe reading all of the things he did, but I'm just blown away about how he took on some very busy day-to-day type work, whether it was the paycheck over at the firehouse or handling the job of mayor, and yet he did the day-to-day, kept the trains running on time, but also blazed these paths toward the future and improved things in an area where you don't exactly have excess money lying around with the creation of the Fire Protection District and everything else. It must have been something up close and personal.
Definitely. Prior to the Fire Protection District being formed, and mainly on his shoulders, before the fire district was formed, we were in a municipal department for the village of Sorrento. I was a young kid at that point, 14, I guess. I entered the fire service as a junior there. Shortly after I joined the department, he started looking at options and ways to improve the department. We were using two antiquated old engines that the city owned at the time, and had no equipment as far as personal protection equipment, very little formal training, and all those things he knew we needed to improve on. So he started getting in contact with some of the folks around the area about forming a fire protection district, and he tirelessly pursued that, knocking on doors, drawing up maps, contacting legal counsel. It was all on him. He did not really ask for a lot of help. He wanted to do it, and no one was going to argue or stand in his way. He took it on, and eventually met his goal, and we formed a small district around Sorrento to get started. And then in a year or two, neighboring areas such as Donaldson and Panama approached us about how to annex into our district. At that point, it changed from once that was all annexed in and went on the ballot and people voted for it, that's when the department name changed from Sorrento Fire Protection District to Shoal Creek Fire Protection District. And then later, a few years following, we were able to annex in the Walshville, community of Walshville, and that surrounding area. So, that brought us up to about 125 square miles of a fire district to protect. So, over the years, he has overseen building 4 stations, one which was built all with volunteer labor, the one that was funded by a grant, one that the district has been able to fund on their own, with the taxpayers' help, of course, and one that was given to us by the village of Panama. So we've grown from one little small department in one small community to now 125 square miles with 4 stations, about 25 very dedicated volunteers. But despite the dedication of the volunteers and myself, it does not compare to what Brett did for us and for the fire service in the area in general. His dedication and his time, we could never repay. And we could never come close to the level of dedication. He just puts it at a new level.
Well, I have to think that legacy with the fire district. I know we spoke after the mega dust storm earlier, mega ground fire, and I have to think having that fire protection district across that coverage area really had to be helpful in getting on top of that situation.
Oh, definitely. Times have changed in the fire service. Numbers have decreased in general for volunteerism. We all depend on one another as far as interdepartmental responses, mutual aid responses, and things like that. He was very open-minded to that. He helped draw up a lot of mutual aid agreements between departments before the MABUS situation had kicked off in the state. Now MABUS, of course, takes care of some of that. But regardless, if it wasn't for other surrounding departments, not just speaking for me, but for all the departments, if it wasn't for mutual aid and other departments helping one another constantly, we would not be able to provide an adequate service to the community. And that fire that day was, there were 39 departments there, and all it was a phone call away. And, it was amazing. Still reflect on that day a lot. What went right, what went wrong. Thankfully, we got through it without any major injuries and no personal injuries to speak of. Things turned out better than they could have. Brett was behind mutual aid and behind supporting all districts, not just ours. He helped form Fire Protection District from north to south and east to west in this state. He was constantly on the road, going to meetings and trying to educate them and inform them on legalities and how do you get started, how do we get this on a ballot, how do we draw our maps, and it was amazing.
And I can imagine when we talk about what you just mentioned, he seemed to see the future and way things are going, just seemed to be ahead of the curve. And boy, the emergency services business, the fire service, this is certainly an area where you want to be ahead of the curve.
You have to in order to survive, so to speak. The fire service is moving so fast that it's very hard to keep up. It's very difficult to keep up. I've been doing this for 45 years now, and the things that have changed in that 45 years is unbelievable. I look back often when I was a younger man and Brett was chief, and the things we were doing then and the equipment we had and the personal protection that was involved back then versus now. Unfathomable that we would have had this kind of change within the fire service when I was, in my mid-20s.
Well, I know a lot of times when you talk about the fire service, people think of bravery and valor, but I know I look in another direction, and it's like a general in the military. Being a tactician is everything. Just talk about just his know-how and instincts when it came to figuring out, okay, boys, here's a game plan, and this is what we're going to do to tame this fire.
Yes, there were many things that we learned on the go. Once we got some formal training initiated, mainly by his legwork, we were able to learn more about fire behavior, basic firefighting techniques and technologies that were available at the time. He was a driving force behind educating us and getting us to the point where we understood what we were battling, more than just there's fire and we have water and hoses, let's mix them up and see what happens. We started to understand through our formal training that if you do this, this happens. If you see this, this is what you need to do. And like a textbook, like a dictionary, he would remember every little detail that we were taught, and we would start initiating those. And when he was chief, and you knew it when you got on scene. There was no argument, there was no doubting. You just went to work and followed his orders and hoped for the best. And more times than not, everything worked out fine.
it sure seemed, especially with the response I've seen to his passing, that he had great respect for miles around. It wasn't just, we're sorry to hear Chief from Fire District 7, District X, or whatever you want to say, passed away, but it was a very personal set of well wishes.
Yes, I agree. Comes from a very large family. He's surrounded by family. Most of them were still in the area. There were a few scattered out throughout the country, but that night they all joined in one home to support one another, and the energy that I exhibited that night with the family was awe-inspiring. Actually, it was just amazing, and that a lot of that stems from how he was raised and how he passed that on to his girls, his daughters, and that continues in the family today. Hard work, take care of your family, do what you can to improve the community, and live a good life. That was pretty much how he lived.
Working with the fire service, it's certainly a tough job, a labor of love, and to tackle other disciplines. And again, we talk about being a firefighter, being more than fighting fires. I guess he was the best example of that with the fire rescue work that he did as a part of his work over there as a miner in Macoupin County. I can only imagine that that made him a better firefighter in any situation.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. He was very well respected both at work, in the community, within the fire department, and of course in the fire service. Widespread. It wasn't just us. It was numerous other districts and departments as well. And of course in his paths he crossed paths with many politicians, many senators, representatives, the governor. All the fire marshals knew him by name when they saw him. I mean, he was just that guy. He was the face of the fire service in this area for many, many years.
Well, I'm going to put on the mayor's hat for him here. Finding time to do that, and I know it can be such a thankless job in a town the size of Sorrento, where you're not going to get huge state or federal grants, and boy, you have to fight for every dollar, and you have a problem property, you don't have a code enforcement department. It really, I know it has to be a hands-on job if you do it right, and I can imagine that was impressive in its own right.
Yes, being the mayor, of course, I'm sure, to do it right takes many hours, basically a full-time job. And then you add a paycheck to that from a full-time job. And then you add being the district fire chief at the same time as being mayor and working full-time and raising 4 daughters. I have no idea how he managed to pull all those things off at once.
I think of Sorrento, and you battle, and I think one of the towns had lost a Casey's, and you take some body blows. I know it was I can't remember if he was mayor when they shut down Sorrento School, but when I think of some of the things that happened in small towns, he was a part of the town's stiff upper lip.
Yes, to say the least. Him and one of his brothers that still lives in town, both very staunch supporters of the community, cheerleaders of sorts, trying to keep things alive. It's not been easy, as you can see, coming into town or visiting town, but there's always hope. And deep set in that community are very deep roots from many families that have been there for generations. There's still a lot of good folks in that town that care and want to do good. And Brett did set an example for people to follow if they wish to improve things.
Well, what did you learn from serving next to Chief Kunkel?
Many things. You don't have enough time to talk to me to cover everything. Patience. Don't expect things overnight, because the first time we went for a district vote, and it was on the ballot, it was turned down. And it did not deter him at all. If anything, it made him more diligent in his work. And we regrouped and circled the wagons and came up with a plan. And by his leadership, we went in the next general election, and it passed. And I learned a lesson there. If you don't succeed, try again. Don't give up on your goals. It was very important, and it has been since 1985. We have continued to improve. And if we wouldn't have laid that foundation and formed the district, I'm not sure what would happen with fire protection in that area. We couldn't have sustained it as a village department properly, and that would have left the rural customers or rural citizens without fire protection. So, all those things combined in that area, all of that falls on him. That all was due to his persistence and diligence and wanting to do better for the community and the area as a whole. There were many lessons I've learned from him. I'm a firefighter outside of Shoal Creek, and I have been for many years. And at one point, I had a gentleman on my shift working for me that just wasn't getting it. He just did not seem to have the mindset to do a good job. And I went to Brett one night, which I did a lot. I'd go to him for guidance and his perspective on things. And I told him the situation with the young gentleman that I was working with. And he just stopped what he was doing and looked at me and says, "You have a man in the fire service. You do not have the fire service in that man, and there's nothing you can do about it." And he was right. So that is one thing that he told me years ago, and it stuck to me to this day. We get a lot of volunteers that want to come in and give it a try, and after a couple of months, they just realize, I'm not cut out for this. I don't think I want to do this anymore. There's nothing we can do. I mean, we can beg them, we can entice them with something to get them to stay there, but if it's not inside of them, it's not in their hearts, it's not going to work out, and they're not going to be good volunteers for us. There's still plenty of good people out there. We just got to find them.
In his role with the Fire Protection Districts Association in the state, what kind of influence did he have with the challenges being faced today? Volunteers having a full roster, what have you. I can imagine that was quite a crusade. Yes,
and our roster's still not full. When I joined in 1980, we had 35 or so members. We're in the low 20s now, and that's covering a much larger area. So that one, that's just a change of the times, and there's nothing really any one person can do to rectify that. Otherwise, it would have been done already. He did work with a lot of committees within the state. He did a lot of lobbying in Springfield for funding, for making sure that they understood many things between volunteers and professional paid fire departments are the same. Others are different. A lot of legislation has come down in the past few years because of the work that a lot of the committees that he worked with, have been able to get the legislators to develop in the state. One thing that wouldn't change, and doesn't change, and isn't different between paid and volunteer departments is life safety issues. We all meet the same requirements. We all meet the same training recommendations that the state puts forward and other agencies. So he was a good voice for us as far as making it understood that these volunteers are here, but you can't beat them in the ground. They need to be trained to the proper level, but they also are doing this as a sideline. This is something they want to do when their families and their jobs don't call for their attention, and he was a big help in that.
Well, I sure appreciate your time. I just have to think, for Sorrento through the decades, he was the glue.
Yes, he was our founding father, so to speak. He never let his guard down. He was always there for us, and no, despite how well you get along with someone, there's always going to be differences. There's always going to be feelings involved. But in the end, no matter how it would turn out, he would always apologize if need be. He would appreciate your presence, and he was always thankful for everyone we have.
Well, Chief David Caulk, I sure appreciate your time, and all the best to everybody getting through this difficult time.
We're a tight-knit group. We're a small group, but we're a very tight-knit group. Spouses, children, the firefighters themselves. We're very tight. We've been checking on one another. We've been keeping tabs on one another. We've been at the fire station almost every night now, and of course the spouses, the children have been welcome to come up and share in our work and share in what we're doing. It's not just the firefighters; it's a family thing for us. So, included in family, of course, is Brett's daughters and grandchildren and so on. We have been checking on them as best we can. We have a trustee that is very close to the family, and she has been kind of our liaison between ourselves and the family. So we're making sure that they're taken care of, and that everything's as good as can be expected on their side. And our folks are fine. We're doing okay. We have a goal to meet that will be met this weekend, and then we can pick up the pieces, stand up, and drive forward.
And Chief, I'll mention this too. The memorials. I understand memorials are being directed to the department.
That is correct. It's being directed to the Shoal Creek volunteers. Our hope is, years ago, we were gifted a piece of World Trade Center steel from the New York City Port Authority, and we are hoping to get a proper, memorial placed in the yard of Station 1 in Sorrento, and our goal is to try to get that completed before the 25th anniversary of 9/11, which, of course, is September of this year. Any donations will be pushed towards that funding, and I think between some funding that the volunteers have set aside and what memorials we do get for Mr. Kunkel and his passing, will get us over the top, and we can get this piece of steel out on display in the public 24/7 as it should be. He is. Some people think we're going over the top, but well, I don't. I don't.
I wouldn't either.
They haven't known him for 50 years like I have.
Yeah.
He's 10 years older than I am. He had an impact. Him and my older brother were very good friends in school. So, he was around the house when I was an ankle biter. And, I've kind of grew up with his influence in my life, my entire life. And now that's gone. And honestly, personally, I haven't had time to grieve yet. I'm sure I will have my day next week or several days next week. But right now, focusing on meeting this goal for his memory and his family is paramount to me. So we're gonna make it happen.